So now let's take a look at queue in Java. Again, in the interest of time, we are not going to go through a full implementation of queue in our printer class. We are just going to basically create a queue with some strings here, just so you can see the basic idea of a queue. But it's going to work a lot like a lot of the other collections that we have already covered here. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the set code here, and then we're just going to create a new queue. And you are going to see that queue has some unique methods on it that are kind of a little bit difficult to understand what they mean just from the name. So I'm going to create a queue of strings here. So we are going to queue up some strings and we'll call this my queue. And we will create a new linked list of string. And linked list is an implementation of queue. So a linked list is also a list, but it also implements this queue interface. So we can use it as a queue. And this is perhaps the most commonly used queue is a linked list. So this is going to provide us everything that we need in order to create a queue. And in this case, we're just going to queue up some strings. So we are going to do my queue. And we are going to call this method offer. And offer will add something to the queue, and it basically works just like add. You could use add instead, but offer won't throw an exception if the queue is full already. And for certain queue implementations, you could create a queue that was of a fixed length that couldn't be longer than a certain number, and this would not throw an exception. But add would. A lot of these methods that we are going to be calling on queue kind of operate based on that idea that they are not going to throw an exception just because there is nothing on the queue or the queue is full. But in this case, we will just add some strings here. We will do offer A, and then we will do offer B, and then offer C. So we will add A, B, C to the queue, and they are going to be in that order because a queue is ordered. And then we are going to loop through the queue, and we are going to check to see if there is anything in the queue, and if there is, then we are going to go ahead and print out. We are going to remove what is on top of the queue and print it out. And we are going to create a loop here. We are going to create a while loop. And we are going to do a while my queue dot peak does not equal null. And peak is a method that we can use on a queue to check to see what the top item on the queue is. But we are not going to remove anything, we are just going to look. And if there is nothing there, it will return null and won't throw an exception. So as long as there is something in the queue, let's do this loop. And so what we will do here is we will just do system.out.println, and we are going to print myQueue.poll. And poll method on a queue basically will poll the top item of the queue and return it. And so it's actually going to remove something from the queue at the same time it is going to give us that thing. So because we have strings here, we are going to start off. We are going to have A, B, and C. And we are going to pick here. We are going to see, oh, there is A on the top here. And then we are going to print that, or we are going to print what is on the top. We are going to call poll, and poll is going to pull A off the top and then print it. And then B is going to be on the top, and then poll is going to pull B off, and so on until we are out of the things. And then the peak is going to be null, and we will be done. So let's go ahead and run this and see what happens now. And as you can see here, it is just printed ABC. And so really that is what you can use a queue for, is you basically queue up things in the queue by offering things to the queue. And then you can either use pick or poll. Pick will look at the top item without removing it. And poll will grab the item off of the top and remove it from the queue. And this allows you to do some data processing. If you can imagine, you might have some way of adding things to the queue and then removing them from the queue, and you don't really want to throw exceptions. If there is nothing on this queue, if you call it poll, this would actually turn null. it wouldn't throw an exception. And so you could check for null, and you can make basically a list that allows you to have some processing logic kind of built into it.